Hey guys, we will get started in just 1 minute here. Hello there, Mark, Aiden. We got KW Living on, Karen getting on, and I am going to share my screen. Can you guys hear me okay? Making sure my volume's on. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Can you guys see the screen okay? Mental health awareness, it says, master your mindset. Awesome. Sometimes when I'm in present mode, it gets wonky. So if I'm talking about something and you guys are like, I don't see that, just speak up and let me know. So I love that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think it's a conversation that we don't have often enough, whether it's about ourselves, whether it is awareness about clients we're dealing with, co-brokes, friends, family, whatever that may be. So we are going to spend a little time on that today. I recently was in Austin, and Gary Keller said this quote when I was there: your business life cannot exceed your personal life. And I've always heard him say things like that. And I know as we're setting goals, we always will set personal and business, but it seems that we will only hold to standard our business goals and not necessarily our personal goals. And I think that floods right into mindset. So I'm going to start with sharing a little story. I don't know, some of you might have heard this before, and I can email it after the class if anybody wants, but it is a story that helps change the way you look at things. It's called The Cracked Pot. I'd originally heard this on Ben Kinney's podcast, who Ben Kinney is like the wealth guy, and you wouldn't think he would bring up something like this, but it was such a great story. So I wanted to share it here. It is a water bear in India had two large pots, each hung on each end of a pole, which he carried across his neck. One of the pots had a crack in it. And while the other pot was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water at the end of the long walk from the stream to the master's house, the cracked pot arrived only half full. For a full 2 years, this went on daily, with the bear delivering only 1.5 pots full of water in his master's house. Of course, the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishments, perfect to the end for which it was made. But the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfection and miserable that it was able to accomplish only half. After 2 years of what it perceived to be a bitter failure, it spoke to the water bearer one day by the stream. And the pot said, "I'm ashamed of myself, and I want to apologize to you. The bearer asked, "Why? What are you ashamed of?" The pot replied, "For these past 2 years, I am able to deliver only half of my load because this crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your master's house. Because of my flaws, you don't get a full value for your efforts." The water bearer felt sorry for the old cracked pot, and in his compassion, he said, "As we return to the master's house, I want you to notice the beautiful flowers along the path." As they went up the hill, the old cracked pot took notice of the sun warming the beautiful wildflowers on the side of the path, and this cheered it somewhat. But at the end of the trail, it still felt bad because it had leaked out half its load, and so again, it apologized to the bearer for its failure. The bearer said to the pot, "Did you notice that there were flowers only on your side of the path, but not on the other pot's side? That's because I have always known about your flaw, and I took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds on your side of the path, and every day while we walk back from the stream, you've watered them. For 2 years, I've been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my master's table. Without you being just the way you are, he would have not had this beauty to grace his house." And then it says the moral is each of us has our own unique flaws. We are all cracked pots. In this world, nothing goes to waste. You may think like the cracked pot that you are inefficient or unless in certain areas of your life, but somehow these flaws can turn into be a blessing in disguise. And in this industry, I think, he is the bomb, Karen. In this industry, it is so easy to compare ourselves. And there is a million mindset spirals we could go down, but I see so-and-so closing this many deals, or they look so busy, or I'll never amount to that, or they have more money than I do. And we are all exactly where we are supposed to be in the exact time we're supposed to be there. And I wanted to weigh in, like everybody has their own superpower that makes them great in this industry. Like you're not supposed to be just like the other agent who's doing whatever, your gifts are going to be used at a different time. Even myself in this role, this is something I had wanted years ago and it wasn't the right time. And I don't know, I kind of let it go. And had I had fear of failure, or I don't know, if I just took that mindset, like, oh, if I didn't get that once, it'll never happen for me. And I would have missed this opportunity. So there are always things in life that make us seem like, we don't measure up, but looking at it from a different way. So I just wanted to share that story. And if any of you, just so you know, want to, you can unmute yourself, add anything to the chat, like feel free for this to be interactive. So next, I wanted to move on. I don't know if anybody is familiar with this cognitive triangle. Anybody on the chat? I don't know if anyone's seen it before. So this is where essentially mindset comes from. And it's called the cognitive triangle, and it shows how thoughts, emotions, and behaviors affect one another. This means changing your thoughts will change how you feel and then behave. So this is something like I actually used to see a counselor whom I loved, and I would have seen her forever, and she graduated me off. But this is something I used to work with, whatever, you know what I'm saying. I used to work on it when I was seeing her, and let alone we can use this cognitive triangle for ourselves, but I think it also is going to show a great way. It shows how we can relate to other people and maybe what they might be thinking. So what it starts with is right up here, it says situation, but situation could be conversation. It could be an event. It could be something happens in your life. That is going to trigger a thought. And thoughts are our interpretations of a situation. This says, for example, if a stranger looks at you with an angry expression, you could think, oh, what did I do wrong? Or you could think maybe they're having a bad day. So from there, the thought is always going to control the feeling. Here they call it emotions, but emotions are feelings such as happy, sad, angry, or worried. Emotions can have physical components as well as mental, such as low energy when feeling sad or a stomach ache when feeling nervous. And then that feeling is going to trigger a behavior or an action. Behaviors are your response to a situation. Behaviors include actions such as saying something or doing something or choosing not to do something. So we can often get in this triangle, this thought process. The thought controls the feeling controls the action, and maybe we're coming across a way we didn't want to. And something that I found super fascinating is it all comes back up to here, up to our thoughts, how we perceive a situation, how we think about the situation, and then how we can act on it. So we can think of, for example, if you are dealing with a co-broke, this isn't my own story. I had heard somebody share it recently, but she was working with another agent on the other side of the deal. And this agent, I think, was known for kind of being a jerk, but typically she got along with everyone. This agent in the deal, I forget what was happening, but she was just coming across very harsh. And Jen, the agent I know who had shared this story, said, I'm going to call her Sally. Sally, is there anything bothering you? Because I feel like the way you're responding to this, I'm perceiving it that you're angry or XYZ. And this Sally, or whatever her name was, she said, I guess she was silent on the phone for a while. And then she started crying. And she said, I can't tell you the last time somebody asked me how I feel. And she said, I'm actually going through a divorce. And it was just amplifying everything in her world. So as a deal was falling apart, everyone was just getting the worst side of her. So had Jen just pushed back and gave Sally a little piece of what she was giving Jen, the situation would have been completely different. Maybe they wouldn't come to an agreement, so on and so forth. Everybody always has something they're carrying that we don't see. I've heard it compared to an iceberg, like we only see the tip of what's going on, and underneath the surface, there's a whole different story. So I bring this up because this could be something we're relating to ourselves or even a thought we have on another person. Something else I found fascinating in working through this with my counselor is, so a situation, and this will happen with everything we do all day, every day, is basically cause and effect, a situation to a thought. And I think there's a study that maybe only, I think they say like 80% of our thoughts are not fact. And that just blew my mind, because so often we will perceive a situation and 9 times out of 10, well, 8 times out of 10, if you use that analogy, it's not even factual. Like we probably made up that feeling, or, we made up that thought. So I don't know. I just think that, this is Jordan. I agree. She read a book called 4 Agreements, and one of the agreements was never take things personal. A lot of how people are acting have to do with them and not you. So when you are interacting with people, be sure to take into consideration what we don't know, what goes on in their life. I agree with that, Jordan, 10 times over. And it's funny, I actually have the book, The 4 Agreements, and I have went to start it. It's shorter. I think you could read it quickly. So it's always like a book I take on vacation, and then I get busy and I never read it, but this makes me want to read it. And Karen, I love what you said. We can't control situations or other people's behavior, but we can absolutely control how we respond to them. That is 100% it. So the event is always going to happen, guys. And what we can control is right here. And what's amazing is right here, that's what controls our feelings and then how we're acting. So if we could learn to manage our thoughts, how much, and it's not even about being happy per se. It is, I think, living in a state of contentment or in a state of you can remain more even if we can learn to manage these thoughts. It's the one thing in here we can control. I agree with that 100%. Anybody else have anything they want to add before we move on from there? Oh, good. Jordan, she says it's one of her favorite topics. Well, you unmute and add in anything you want to. I think so much comes from this, and I hope you guys see that in addition to our own mindset and our own life, if we are looking at every situation with this and trying to control our thoughts, I think we're going to be much further along. So this next slide kind of talks about, what I said about things not being factual. So this is just kind of an action item slide. What do we do, if thoughts are not facts? How do we switch that narrative? How do we change? And if any of you have any other ideas, please share. But this says number 1 isn't true. And our knee-jerk reaction is to always say, well, yeah, it's true. I know it is because I know how she acts, or I know how girls are, or I know so-and-so acts like this. So our knee-jerk reaction is yes. It's how the brain initially reacts. You're an autopilot and you live, we just believe that it is true. So then let's go to, is this absolutely true? Ask yourself, is this thought 100% accurate? Can you see the thought in a different way? And that's a really hard thing to do when it's just you in your own head. Like, can I look at this a different way? Let's put myself in the other agent's shoes. Do I know what's going on in their personal life? No. Do I know what happened an hour before this call? No. 5 minutes before this call? No. So is it absolutely true? Do we know everything about that person or about this situation that would make it true? Number 3 says, how does this thought make me feel? So notice any storylines you're holding on to and name your feelings: sad, angry, hurt, jealous. Guys, once we name something, it loses its power. So we can all get in these repetitive ruts, and, knowing almost what your trigger is and naming it, like typically I feel like people will go to one certain emotion, whether it's sadness or insecure or jealous, they usually have a go-to. So how does this make me feel? What storylines are there? And I think you'll start to notice when you observe these emotions, is there a pattern? Like, do I always go to the same thought process? Because then you're going to have a pattern of actions or behaviors as well. And then what would things be like if I didn't hold this belief? So imagine possible benefits to your relationships, energy levels, and motivations. And guys, that goes for ourselves. That goes, again, in dealing with everybody. This is in business and it's in personal life. Is there anything anybody would want to add there?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Hey. Yeah. So I practice this, and I actually did a study a couple of years ago. And in this study, we kind of called these your spirals, because we get our negative thought and then we just perpetuate something, and it's kind of like a downward spiral. So I love how this speaks to putting some space between you and your thoughts, because you need to create margin. You need to step back a minute and just kind of refocus and recenter. And I always like to think of it like visually, because I'm a visual person, about spiraling up instead of spiraling down. But I love these different steps. It's a great idea.
I love that spiraling up. That is a great idea. It's funny, Karen, in this business, we always talk about failing forward. And I'm like, I just hate fail. Like, I wish there was a different word because I don't want to look at it negatively, but
yeah, so failures are opportunities for learning and growth, right?
Yep, absolutely. That's another favorite Gary Keller quote. He says, there is no failure. You win or you learn, and either one is okay. That is like So my kids actually even say that, because I'll say it like before a game or something, and they'll even catch me, Mom, what does Gary Keller say? I think that's a good one. Yes, I agree. Jordan said, good stuff, Karen. And when I put these thoughts against my goals and ambitions, I ask myself these same questions. It's so easy to get in the mindset of failure. And we're going to talk about failure in a minute here too. And that leads to fear and stagnancy. So instead, I ask myself, if I couldn't fail, how would I live my life? And I act on that mindset instead. That's great. I think, you guys, it's knowing like what's in our toolbox. What can we do when we know these thoughts are creeping in? Have a go-to, like have an action plan or have something that works for you. Like if you can't go, because these are hard to do, is it true? Is it absolutely true? It's hard to remind yourself of that. So maybe you can create some kind of system, but if you can take one thing from this section, I would say, please know that your thoughts are not facts. In some instances, they might be, but 9 times out of 10, they're not facts. And I think it gives it a good way to look. So then I think my next one is this video. Okay, no, I have the video soon, but this is if any of you have done Bold, Gary, well, he writes in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book about the 6 personal perspectives. And I'm not going to go through all 6. They are absolutely amazing. But I do want to bring up self-mastery, because all of this, like understanding the way we think, understanding other people, that comes into mastering ourselves. And they say only when you have attained both self-mastery and mastery can you accomplish the goals you set for yourself. So, in this business, again, like I said in the beginning, so often we will go to, what is my business goal, or I want to sell X many units, or, this is what I want to focus on. We tend to forget family. And I think Brian, my husband, might be on here. Full disclosure, when I first started in the business, it was like, you have to say yes to every opportunity, and you do to an extent in order to grow, but it's also very, very healthy to set boundaries around this self-mastery as well. And something I learned the hard way was saying yes to every business opportunity didn't leave me enough room for self-mastery or for family. Like I needed that space in order to master that business side. And, a difference here, they say self-mastery is when you decide that you are going to take on mastering yourself. When you accept this challenge, you can effectively lead yourself and direct your success. And I truly think, guys, until you do this, it's really hard to do mastery. So then mastery starts with a decision to excel at something, a decision to put the time and effort into achieving excellence, and to reject mediocrity. And we might have something in the chat here. Oh, yep, Brian says he is listening. But no, I think he would agree. The moment I was able to kind of take a step back and stop only focusing on business and move that focus to also like myself and my family, in turn, my business excelled. So this is very important to talk about, and kind of goes back to the beginning of even that story. We all have our strengths, and we are all the cracked pot. Not one of us is that perfect pot carrying the full jug of water. So we all have our strengths, and knowing what our superpower is in that. Yeah. And yes, Brian, you are absolutely right. Some pots have a lot larger cracks too. And those are also a benefit in a certain way. So trying to focus on what you are blessed with and what makes you you. Okay, now I hope this video plays for me. So I don't know if you guys know Jay Shetty. I think talked about him in a meeting before. I love Jay Shetty. He was actually a monk for a while, and he's wrote a book, Think Like a Monk. I actually just finished his like 8 Rules to Love. He's awesome person. He's not a practicing monk anymore, but he is all things mindset. And I feel like we can't, in this conversation, talk about mindset without talking about failure. So everybody cross your fingers for technology that this video plays. And I'm very sorry that there's an ad. And it is going to play after the full ad. Looks like we have 5 more seconds. Sorry, guys.
Time, treat time. Number.
Okay.
I'm convinced that there's no such thing as an overnight success. I believe it's a fallacy, a myth to believe that overnight in 24 hours that someone can turn into a worldwide phenomenon. Once a lady was in a marketplace and she saw Picasso. And she went up to Picasso and she said, "Picasso, can you draw me a portrait?" He said, "Sure, I'll draw you a portrait." He reached for a pen and paper and he, in 30 seconds, sketched an identical portrait of this lady, and handing it back to her, he said, "That'll cost you $30,000. And she replied, she said, "Picasso, how can you charge me $30,000? That took you 30 seconds. He said, "It took me 30 years to be able to do that in 30 seconds. And it's amazing how that time, that unforgotten, that invisible world beyond the bottom of the iceberg, underneath the water, the part you don't see, is actually what made what you see today possible. When you look at the definition of failure in the English dictionary, it's defined by 3 words: lack of success. But that means we don't value learning. It means we don't value growth. It means we don't value experience and struggle. Our obsession with winning means that we're actually letting go of all of that which we could be learning at every single point. Since I was a young boy, I've been enamored with stories of failure, from biographies and autobiographies and books about people who changed the world and books about people who changed other people's worlds. There was a young cartoonist, and all the editors and newspaper journalists said that he lacked natural talent. They rejected him, and after countless rejections, it was actually a church minister who gave him an opening to start drawing little cartoons in the back of the church in this small little shed. And this gentleman, he once saw a mouse running around, and believe it or not, that was the birth of Mickey Mouse. That was Walt Disney, that cartoonist who went on to win 22 Academy Awards. Imagine this lady was told that she wasn't fit for television. She was told that she would never make it online or on TV. Her name's Oprah Winfrey. She became the most influential woman in the world. This has to be my favorite failure story of all time. I mean, his fiance died. He failed in business. He had a nervous breakdown. And on top of all of that, he failed and lost in 8 elections. He went on to be the 16th president of the United States of America. His name's Abraham Lincoln. I actually believe that failure has the ability to lure success. Countless failures are almost doorkeepers to success. And every time you walk through one door, the gate gets bigger and the lock gets tighter, and it gets that much more difficult because we're being tested for our genuineness and our authenticity and our real desire to chase that goal, a real desire to actually embody the values that are needed to almost take responsibility for that success, to take responsibility for that position and the influence it brings with it. And therefore, if you've never failed, you've never really tried anything new.
I just absolutely loved that video. And I think, look at Oprah, Walt Disney, Abraham Lincoln. I love the examples he talks about. And I just thought of this with my headphones on. Could you guys hear that video? I hope. Okay, thank you. So it's super important. And I love how we talked about failure is usually like the door marker to success. After a failure, the success comes. And I do want to read really quick, and then I'm going to open this up. He brought up Abraham Lincoln. And if you guys, I think I'm going to start doing like MREA Mondays, because there is just, this book is like the Bible of real estate. And in the Myth Understandings, he shares Abraham Lincoln's story. And I'm not going to read it all, but just his timeline. 1832, failed in business, filed bankruptcy. 1832, defeated for legislature. 1834, failed in business again, filed bankruptcy. 1835, fiance died. 1836, nervous breakdown. 1838, defeated in election. 1843, defeated for US Congress. 1848, defeated for US Congress. 1855, defeated for US Senate. 1856, defeated for vice president. 1858, defeated for US Senate. And then it says, had you stopped there, you would have missed the final point. 1860, elected president of the United States of America. So that, like, I actually have chills as I'm reading it. I think we can so easily get in our head, and that goes back to, you know, your thoughts, controlling your feelings, controlling your actions. You think if he went through this list and didn't have the right mindset, he would have ended up being the president of the United States. It is like, it just blows my mind. So from here, I guess I wanted to share that little failure story. Does anybody have anything they would add, or we can open it up to conversation?
Yeah, I don't know what the stat is, but there's somebody really famous who has failed literally 5,000 or something times, and that's James Dyson. He had to invent, I don't know how many thousands of iterations of his product before he obviously became a raving success.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We have a so I ski. I don't if you guys don't know, you will know. But you know, we have a saying, if you're not falling, you're not trying, you know, like try hard.
That is
And
so,
sometimes you
I
fall hard.
love that. If you're not falling, you're not trying. I absolutely love that. And guys, like, we have to look at our business this way. Like, we are going to fail. You know, it's, if you didn't fail, you didn't take an opportunity, you didn't take a risk. So I look at that in life and in this business without a doubt. And then let's see here. Did I get to all of the comments? Yes. Failure really is the blueprint for success. Agree, Jordan, 100%. So I just like, something I want you guys to take from today, unless anybody has anything else they want to add, is give yourself grace to sit in those thoughts. And are these factual? You know, where am I getting this from? And also, just as equally as important, is give others grace. Whether it's, I mean, we didn't even talk about our clients that much. Like, buying and selling homes is the most emotional time in somebody's life. Like, there's very few things that are probably more emotional than that, or just at a high stress level. So giving others grace as well, and giving them space to sit in their thoughts and listening. So I think we need to do it for both ourselves and for other people. And yeah, does anybody have anything they want to add before we close out?
No, just that, like, to me, I think this should be a really top priority focus for people in this market. And that's all I'm hearing people saying is, I mean, it's so easy to get in that spiral of, oh my gosh, I lost out again on another multiple offer. And we just have to be strong mentally and emotionally, and we got this.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, Karen, because full disclosure, guys, I even felt like, do I do a mindset class? Like, are people even going to find that valuable? And it starts, I really feel like our success starts here. And just like Karen said, there are going to be multiple offers. It's dealing with your buyer after they haven't gotten 5 offers accepted. You know, are they losing faith in me? And just going back to the facts. And yeah, I think that's very important. Oh, Jordan said it would be kind of cool to do this monthly just to remind ourselves to stay focused and keep a positive mindset about our failures so we can achieve success. I completely agree. Maybe some type of little like accountability group it could turn into. I love that. Yeah, I thank you guys for being on this little journey with me today, and we might end up doing more of these mindset classes. And show of hands for those of you who are on, because I am tossing around this idea. I also feel like it's mindset, and we're going from a fast-paced market to a skill-based market. And they're saying now, and this skill doesn't have to come with experience, but it comes, you got to learn your craft and know your craft. And so I feel like the MREA book is intimidating. It can read, if you're an Audible person, which I love to listen to books, it reads boring a little bit. And I felt like, what is a way I would love to start dissecting this? So would you guys find that beneficial if we, like once a week, even if it's just like a half-hour class, started breaking down the MREA? That way you can learn what it's all about without having to read it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're going to start doing that. So keep a lookout. Next Thursday, we actually do not have one of our Thursday trainings because it's Red Day. I hope you guys can all join us for Red Day. It's going to be a great experience. And I think that's all for me. I wish you all the best day, and thank you for hopping on, and we'll see you at Red Day next week.
Bye.
Bye.